Hello all, welcome you all back to the subject of investing in management. We'll continue with what we have seen in the previous video about Unit 5. In this video, we'll be discussing about TQM and the remaining part of Unit 5. So what TQM is about generally? Total quality management has been a term which is quite commonly used across different industries, be it manufacturing or service industries. So in general, TQM is about integration of all the functions and processes within an organization with an objective of aim of achieving a continuous improvement of all the goods and services which have been provided. The ultimate aim of TQM is to have a satisfied customers. So customer satisfaction is the ultimate goal of TQM. So in a TQM perspective, there are few terms which we usually use quite often, and we'll see what are those terms referring to. In customers refers to a person who is impacted by the product or process which is delivered by an organization, whereas there is another term called consumer, right? So customer is someone who usually get the product or buys the product, and consumer is someone who is utilizing the product directly, right? And the customers can be internal as well as external customers as well. The end user as well as intermediate processes may not be the purchasers, but they may have some connection with the product. Those are called as your external customers. Whereas internal customers are the ones like within the plant. You may have different divisions starting from manufacturing, assembly, distribution, even purchasing. Those are your suppose for the purchasing department, the manufacturing department will be the customer. For manufacturing department, the assembly department will be the customers, internal customers. And for assembly department, the warehousing or distribution department will be your internal customers. So that is how the internal customers works upon. So what does a product refers to? It is the final output you receive through a process, and it may be a good or say for example an automobile or any consumable product. It may be a software, it can be a computer code or a report, or it can be a service too. It refers to insurance and banking sectors too, right? So a TQM put together all these process, and it makes sure that all these functions are integrated in a way that there's a continuous scope for improvement, and there is always an improvement in the quality of goods and services provided, through which the customers are getting satisfied in every possible way. Why we need to have a TQM, or probably why we need to look up to quality? The reasons, because quality is becoming a cardinal priority for most of the organizations, is that of course the first and foremost reason is because of the competition. Everywhere you see that every product and every companies are facing huge issues with huge competition from their competitors, and the market right now is demanding very high quality products. More importantly, they wanted to produce their product at a much more lesser price, right? So high quality reputation is not enough. They need to constantly keeps on improving. Even you can take the example of Apple products. Like every new product they bring in with the new unique features. They had this unique feature of bringing Bluetooth AirPods. They were the first to introduce that concept, right? So that internal cost of maintaining the reputation also should be less. So that is the first reason why quality is finding a greater competition. And the second reason is of course the change in needs of the customers. They are prioritizing so many aspects. The example which I have initially quoted in the one of the previous video, a mobile phone with a camera was not of a mandatory requirement few years back, but now you see that camera is one of the most primary requirement in a mobile phone. With along with the two, we need to have not a basic camera, you need to have a higher end camera features, right? So that the customer needs keeps on changing, and there is also a need for getting a diversified product. So there is, you could the industry is facing a shift from a low volume and high price to high volume low price, which have resulted to reduce the internal cost of poor quality. So initially when they were facing the loss due to internal cost of poor quality, they were the same was seen having a greater implications on the customer side. Now that they wanted to reduce it, you could see that the customers are also facing the same issue. So they wanted to have a good quality product at a much lesser price. So the diversification of products also plays a key important role. So when you speak about TQM, there are few important persons who needed to be discussed here. So they are called as usually the quality gurus. Walter Sheward, Joseph M. Juran, Philip Crosby, Edward Timmings, and Junichi Teguchi are the persons who have been contributing to a greater extent. Of course, their contributions have resulted in significant impact to improving the quality of goods and services on a larger scale. There are few, we'll just see the outline, and we'll just see only look up the conceptual part of their contributions here. Crosby, Deming, and Juran, the three important pillars. Of course, you could see Walter Stewart and other persons, Takujis, to be mentioned in the previous slide, but these three persons are the primary persons who have contributed, who have significantly created a greater impact in the industrial setup with the implementation of quality. So they usually call us the ideal, the important three main quality gurus. So as far as Crosby is concerned, he defines quality as conformance to specification, and for Deming is concerned, he defines quality as degree of uniformity and dependability at low cost, whereas Juran is very clear about fitness of use. If the product is very fitted for the customer, then it is of good quality. We could see that different levels of characteristics have been differentiated here. The general approach for a crosswise is about prevention and it is not about inspection, whereas for Deming it is about reducing the variability by continuous improvement, and Juran is more focused towards human elements, like it's about general management to the quality. And everyone have given three different kinds of procedures. There are 14 steps in crosswise quality improvement and 14 points from Deming's principle also, which is one of the very important key aspect of the quality management system. Any industry you go there, you see that Deming's principles is followed, and Juran as well as have given 10 steps for the quality improvement as well. So what is cost of quality refers to? It usually goes by the rule of 1:10:100, which means that a one poor operation or one wrong operation may result in 10 different, or may result in 10% or probably 10 times of the internal cost. That may result in 100 times of your external cost. There are so much of examples you could relate, right? Even off late you could been hearing the news about many automobile industries getting back their cars, right? Even very recently Volkswagen have called back few of their cars again, and again a few of the cars from Maruti have been recalled again, stating that there have been an issue with some of the key important aspects, like if not more specific, right? There are a few companies have listed that there's an issue with their fuel injection, and there is an issue with their steering, the position of the steering and all those stuff, right? So all these things, you could see that these costs are adding up only to the industry, they are not adding up to the customers. So once your product is getting sold to the customers, you have to ensure that the product is not returned back due to poor quality. So all these will contribute significantly to the internal cost. So once the internal cost is not good, that's why this 1:10:100 rule plays a very clear role. So one defect, one wrong operation, or one bad operation which is done will result in 10% or probably 10 times of the internal cost. That will result in 100 times of the total cost which is to be incurred by the management. So prevention, appraisal, internal failure, external failure are the various categories of cost you classify. So prevention cost is cost you associate with preventing the defects in all the activities which you do, like training, early reviews, process improvement initiatives, all those things. The activities are done which are done to prevent the failure from happening. You call them to be preventive costs. Appraisal costs are the inspections, audits, and quality control which are done to enhance the quality. They are not about inspecting, they just the costs which are associated with testing the product to ensure that they are conforming to the required specifications. An internal failure clause, the examples are the repairs, retesting, and even updating the documentation, the costs which are associated with fixing the defects before it's getting into release. This is the key important fact. If your internal failure cost is going to be lesser, then obviously you see that the external failure cost will also be lesser. If the internal failure cost is going to be more, there is more possibility that there may be some external failure cost which will occur. So you have to be very specific that all the processes are done at the right time with ideal operations, and that is why the preventive cost and appraisal cost plays a key important role. Once you are very sure that the product is conforming to the required specification, then there will be a very lesser possibility of having an internal failure cost. Whereas external failure cost refers to the cost which are associated with fixing the defects after the product is released. Right? This is the what loss of future sales. Especially the examples which I quoted with the automobile industries. Many automobile sectors are recalling their cars because of few of the failures which they have found to be existing in few of the products. What are the basic elements of TQM? TQM have different tools and different tools and techniques involved over it. Of course, it has few of the pillars of TQM includes fibers, Kaizen, J80, and many such things. But these elements contribute significantly to the implementation of TQM. Training of the employees, teamwork in which the organization is moving work, communication, it has to have good recognition, and leadership has to be very perfect. Few of the leadership principles could be listed in your principles of management. It includes autocratic leader. A few of the other categories have been also listed there, and you need to have the basic foundation of elements of TQM is about ethics, integrity, and trust. You need to be very sure that this implementation of TQM is going to help you in developing a product which will meet the required customers, and also you have to be very sure that the workers are completely acknowledging the work. They should not be feeling that they are doing the work for the work which they are doing for implementation of TQM is not adding up to the required work, right? They are doing so to ensure that they are not reworking the product again, and also it is giving them a good chance of bringing a good reputation to the individual as well as to the industry as well, right? So the basics of TQM is purely about managing the people, and to ensure that the process is optimized by effective utilization of different tools and techniques which are involved. We'll see about those tools and techniques in the next slide. The principles of TQM, PDCA cycle, it is also called as the Shewhart cycle. It was developed by the person Mr. Walter Shewhart. So PDCA refers to plan, do, check, and act. So when in the plan phase, you look up for objectives and process which are required to meet the customer need, and you derive that, and you direct your employees and the firm in a way that it is in line with the organization policies. So the second phase is about implementation, where you deploy the required resources, provide optimal support, and make sure that you are participating actively in all the process which are involved in the implementation phase. Once the implementation is done, you have to check and monitor for all the results, and you have to report if in case any discrepancy is found or any non-conformance to the requirements is happening. The last phase is act, where you see that you are in need of changing the process which have been followed, because the market is changing, the customer demand is changing, the market is requiring you to upgrade yourself. Then you need to recognize that, you need to communicate that to the top management. You have to adapt to the change and improvise the process in a way that, probably revise the process in a way that it is suitable to the customer demand, which has been changing quite common. So these are the 7 QC tools, which is called as the 7 traditional quality control tools. Irrespective of any industry you see, these tools are going to be these tools are the most followed, or probably the most predominant tools which have been employed for effective TQM implementation. First tool is Pareto analysis. You could see Pareto analysis here. This is your Pareto chart. It follows the principles of 80-20 rule, which means that 80% of the problems are due to 20% of the causes, which helps you to identify what are the bigger problems as well. So it gives you an indication about, if you are able to eliminate those 20% of the causes, then you will be able to clear the 80% of the problems. The second one is your cause and effect diagram. So this is your cause and effect diagram. It is also called as the fishbone diagram or Ishikawa diagram, fondly called as Ishikawa because the person who developed this diagram was Mr. Ishikawa. It is also called as fishbone diagram because it looks like the bones of the fish, right? So it gives you an idea about what is the cause for each of the problem. So if in case there is a brake failure, that is the effect of the brake failure. Now you look up to all the possible causes. What is the method in which the brake failures happen? What are the materials involved? Who are the persons involved? And what are the machines which have been involved? How much of money has been spent? And what is the environment in which it has been failed? So for each of this example, like to the one which I have discussed about the brake failures, you could relate to any causes, right? Any effects, and for each of those effects, you can relate to the causes which have happened. So the third one is your stratification diagram. So the stratification diagram is how is the data mapped, right? So it will help you to check for all the required dimensions, and I mean how it will help you to check for all the data which are made up and how those data are interrelated. So the next one is your check sheets. Check sheets here will help you to identify whether all these like kind of SOPs, right? How often it occurs, or how it is done, how the process is done, if the standard operating procedure is followed, or any non-conformity to the requirement is happening. All these things can be noted in the check sheets. The next unit is your histogram. So histogram helps you to identify in which way the variations have occurred. You could see here that if the variations are occurring predominantly in the mid phase, not on the earlier phase or in the last phase, you could see that the variation, probably predominant of the observations are falling in the particular range. So which gives an indication that the more focus has to be given to this particular sector. Next one is a scatter plot. So scatter plot helps you to identify the relationship between the factors. So the factors are correlated and how they are relatable to each other. Now this is your ideal condition. The center line is your ideal line, which is called as a median line. If the observations are falling closer to the median line, you consider that the observations are okay. But if you see that some of the points are distributed over here, and you see that those products are very out of control limit or out of the specification limits, and hence why you need to focus on that particular product to ensure that the quality is not compromised and the product is coming at a defect free. The last one is your process control chart. So process control chart helps you to identify the variations, and this is your upper specification limit and this is your lower specification limit. And you could see that from the observation that few of the observation, especially observation number 7, is falling outside the control limit, and as well as observation number 1 and observation number 11, all these are falling outside the control limit. So if the observations are within this space range of this is your upper specification limit and lower specification limit, it is also called as upper control limit and lower control limit. Even in control chart you have two categories. One is variable control chart and attribute control chart. So your X bar and R charts contribute to your variable control chart, and attribute charts refers to P chart, N chart, and all those things, right? So the control chart helps you to identify where the variations are occurring. You could see here from this observation number 1, 7, 11 are falling outside the control limit, and hence why you need to give much more focus towards those particular observations and find out the root cause of eliminating them. What are the pros and cons of implementing TQM? TQM helps in improving the reputation of the industry, and moreover the morale of the employee also gets improved because they get motivated by the extra responsibility. They feel that they are contributing to a greater extent to the welfare of the organization, and they are also when they are getting involved in the decision making, they feel that they take ownership and pride in making the decisions. So it also gives a sense of morality to increases the morality of the employees too. Also decreases the defective rate in which the products are coming out, hence why there is a lesser possibility of the product getting defective. So once you know that the product even you could see that when 99.99% as what Six Sigma has given us, 99.9% of the products are defect free, then you can obviously eliminate the need for deploying a particular person called the quality control inspector, right? So those are the few key important advantages of implementing TQM. Obviously, of course, it comes with few disadvantages too, because the initial introduction cost is little huge. The management will find it very odd. They will have a hesitant in choosing it. Also, you cannot see the benefits immediately. You need to have patience and you need to have a proper time. You can see only after a few years that the savings are probably the monetary benefits are visibly seen. Until then, you see that it is only the cost which is piling up. Of course, you need to have that patience. The management have to need the patience, and more importantly, the workers may find very rigid, and they will be very resistant to change because they see that TQM to be something which is supervising them. They see that the work which they have been doing for n number of years have been asked to change, and they are very more reluctant to change. So that is kind of management training has to be provided. All those steps have to be done. So that is a kind of little bit of a hurdle which most of the industries face when they are implementing the concept of TQM. Next, we'll see about just in time. Just in time is we are bringing the right quality in right time and at the right place. That is what just in time refers to. It was in the 1960s, Toyota developed this concept of Toyota production system, and in 1970s, US and European makers were beginning to apply JIT to improve the quality and productivity of the products as well. And as we have been upgrading in 1990s and beyond, JIT was implemented to streamline all types of operations, and starting from manufacturing to service sectors, JIT was seen as one of the breakthrough performances where we could minimize the inventory cost and minimize the overall cost as well. So I'll just put up in very simpler term. JIT is about bringing the right part in right place and at the right time. And one of the key important aspect of Toyota production system is implementation of just in time. Of course, they have Jidoka, Heijunko, 5S, and Kaizen. All these steps are relatable terms, but for as far as our syllabus is concerned, we are not going deeper into all these steps. So this is how the TPS system is about. Toyota production system is about. One of the key important aspect is just in time, wherein it creates a continuous flow of system, and it predominantly follows a pull system, and most importantly Kanban is also followed. Kanban is about visual representation of all the data. Thank you for your patient listening, and we'll be continuing the other topics in the next video.